Van Damme sits alone in a Bangkok hotel room at 3 a.m., staring at an empty bottle of vodka in his hand, trying to remember how he got here. The man who performed the most famous split in cinema history between two moving trucks can barely stand up straight. The action hero who kicked his way through dozens of blockbusters now struggles to lift his own head. The martial artist who represented discipline and physical perfection for millions of fans worldwide is destroying himself one pill, one drink, one bad decision at a time. Tomorrow he's supposed to film the final fight scene for a movie he can't even remember the name of. His co-stars avoid him. The director stopped giving him notes weeks ago. His agent hasn't returned his calls in months. Even his own reflection in the mirror looks like a stranger, someone he doesn't recognize, someone he's not sure he wants to know. But what happens in the next 90 seconds doesn't just save this particular movie. It saves Van Damme's life, his career, and creates a moment of raw honesty that will inspire millions of people facing their own demons decades later. Because sometimes the bravest thing a man can do isn't a spinning kick or a death-defying stunt. Sometimes it's just telling the truth. To understand how Van Damme ended up in that Bangkok hotel room contemplating the wreckage of his life, we need to rewind to where it all started. Not to Hollywood, not to his first movie, but to a small apartment in Brussels, Belgium, where a skinny kid named Camille Francois van Varenberg decided he was going to become the greatest martial artist the world had ever seen. Brussels, 1970. A working-class neighborhood where dreams don't grow easily, where most kids follow their parents into practical jobs, where talking about becoming an international movie star gets you laughed out of the room. Van Varenberg is 10 years old, small for his age, skinny, uncoordinated, the kind of kid who gets picked last for football, who eats lunch alone, who walks home a different route every day to avoid the bullies who wait for him after school. His father, Eugene, is an accountant. Practical. Logical, numbers make sense to him, dreams don't. His mother, Eliana, is a florist. She sees beauty in small things, finds poetry in roses and tulips, believes her son has something special even when no one else does, but doesn't feel special. He feels weak, invisible, like the world decided he doesn't matter and everyone agreed without telling him. Then one Tuesday afternoon, everything changes. Is walking home from school, taking his usual detour through the market square when he sees something that stops him cold. A small dojo tucked between a bakery and a tobacco shop. Through the window, he watches a man in a white uniform executing a perfect roundhouse kick. The movement is so clean, so powerful, so beautiful that forgets to breathe. The man isn't just kicking, he's flying. Every movement looks like it defies gravity, like he's found a way to make the human body do things physics says shouldn't be possible. Stands there for 20 minutes, watches, studies, memorizes every kick, every stance, every fluid transition from one technique to another. When his mother asks him why he's late for dinner that night, says something he's never said before with such conviction. "I'm going to be a martial artist." His father laughs, not meanly but not kindly either. "You can barely tie your shoes without falling over. Martial arts requires discipline, coordination, natural talent." But says, "Then I'll develop it." Eugene Van Varenberg looks at his 10-year-old son like he's seeing him for the first time. There's something in the boy's eyes that wasn't there yesterday. Something fierce, determined, a little bit scary in its intensity. If you're serious, you have to commit. No quitting after 2 weeks because it's hard. Promises he won't quit. They agree to try it for 3 months. If he misses a single class, they stop. What Eugene doesn't know in that moment is that his son won't miss a class for the next 40 years. Starts training the next week at Master Claude Goetz's Shotokan Karate School. A small dojo that smells like sweat and discipline and possibility. The first class is humiliating. Can't hold a horse stance for more than 15 seconds. His kicks barely reach waist height. His punches have no power. The other students, some of them younger than him, move with a grace and confidence that makes feel like he's made of wood and nails instead of flesh and bone. After class, he sits in the corner of the dojo, trying not to cry, trying to understand why his body won't do what his mind tells it to do. Master Goetz walks over, sits down next to him. Doesn't say anything for a long moment, just sits. Finally, he asks, "Why are you here?" When admits he wants to be strong because he's tired of being invisible, tired of feeling weak, Master Goetz nods slowly. "Strength isn't what you think it is. The strongest people I know aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who fall and get back up. You fell 100 times in class today. How many times did you get back up?" Realizes he got back up 100 times. Master Goetz says, "Then you're already stronger than you were this morning." Trains every day. 6 a.m. before school, kicks in the small space between his bed and the wall, punches until his knuckles bleed, stretching until his muscles scream. His father hears him through the walls, shakes his head, mutters about obsession and unnecessary suffering. But he doesn't stop him. After school, back to the dojo, 2 hours of formal training, then home, homework at the kitchen table while practicing hand strikes against the edge of his chair. His mother brings him tea, kisses the top of his head, tells him not to push too hard, but she sees the determination in his eyes and knows her words won't change anything. 3 months pass. Eugene expects his son to quit, expects the initial enthusiasm to fade when realizes how hard martial arts actually is. but doesn't quit, doesn't miss a single class, doesn't complain, just trains. 6 months pass, body starts to change. The skinny frame fills out with lean muscle, his kicks rise higher, his punches land harder. Dances hold longer. The transformation isn't dramatic yet, but it's real, measurable, undeniable. Master Goats pulls him aside after class one evening. You're ready to test for your first belt. The test is brutal, an hour of nonstop techniques, forms, sparring, conditioning. Legs shake. His lungs burn. His mind screams at him to stop, to rest, to give up. But he doesn't stop. When Master Goats ties the new belt around waist, something fundamental shifts inside him. It's not just a belt, it's proof. Proof that hard work changes things. Proof that the boy who couldn't hold a horse stance for 15 seconds has become someone different, someone stronger. His father attends the belt ceremony, stands in the back of the dojo with his arms crossed, that usual skeptical expression on his face. But when looks over after receiving his belt, he sees something he's never seen before in his father's eyes. Pride, small, reluctant, almost hidden, but there. After the ceremony, as they walk home through the dark Brussels streets, Eugene says, "I didn't think you'd stick with it." Says, "I know." His father replies, "I'm glad I was wrong." It's the closest thing to "I'm proud of you" that Eugene Van Varenberg will ever say, but for it's enough. By the time turns 18, he's become someone completely different from that skinny, uncoordinated 10-year-old. He's a black belt in Shotokan karate. He's added kickboxing to his training. He started studying ballet because he understands that martial arts isn't just about power, it's about grace, fluidity, control. His flexibility becomes legendary. He can do full splits on demand in any direction on any surface. He wins the European Professional Karate Association's middleweight championship. He competes in full-contact kickboxing and builds an impressive record. But it's not enough. Looks at his trophies, his medals, his championship belts, and feels empty. He's the best in Brussels, maybe the best in Belgium, but Belgium is small. The martial arts world here is limited. There are no movies about Belgian martial artists, no international fame, no way to reach the level he dreams about. He thinks about Bruce Lee, his hero, the man who proved that a martial artist could become a global icon, could change how the world sees combat sports, could bridge cultures and create something that transcends just fighting. Bruce Lee didn't stay in Hong Kong. He went to America. He fought for his place in Hollywood. He faced racism, rejection, and countless closed doors. But he broke through anyway. If wants to follow that path, he needs to leave Brussels, leave Belgium, leave everything familiar and safe and proven. He needs to go to America. His father thinks he's insane. "You have a life here," Eugene says over dinner one night when announces his plan. "You're respected, you're successful, you have students, you have income. Why throw all that away for some fantasy about Hollywood?" Says, "Because this isn't enough, this was never the goal." Eugene replies, "The goal was to stop being weak. You achieved that, be satisfied." But can't be satisfied. Satisfaction feels like death to him. 1981, Van Varenberg, age 21, sells everything he owns. His trophies, his medals, his car, everything. He buys a one-way ticket to Los Angeles with $3,000 in his pocket and a dream that most people would call delusional. His mother cries at the airport. His father doesn't come. Can't bring himself to watch his son make what he believes is a catastrophic mistake. Boards the plane knowing he won't come back, not as a failure. Not until he's proven that the dream was real. Los Angeles hits like a punch he doesn't see coming. The city is massive, overwhelming, nothing like Brussels. The heat is oppressive. The traffic is insane. The people move fast, talk fast, make decisions fast, and have no patience for someone with a thick Belgian accent who can barely string together a coherent English sentence. $3,000 runs out in 6 weeks. He sleeps in his car for 3 months. A beat-up Honda he bought for $800, the only thing he could afford. He parks in different spots every night to avoid police, to avoid getting harassed, to maintain some tiny shred of dignity even as his circumstances become more desperate by the day. He showers at a gym where he convinced the manager to give him a free membership in exchange for teaching martial arts classes. He eats one meal a day, usually cheap tacos from a stand near Venice Beach. He loses weight. His muscle definition, which he worked so hard to build, starts to fade, but he doesn't give up. Every morning he drives to the studios, Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, Columbia. He walks up to the security gates and asks if they're hearing stunt performers. Most of the guards laugh at him, some tell him to go away. One threatens to call the police if he comes back. He takes odd jobs to survive, works as a bouncer at a nightclub. Gets paid under the table to deliver flowers for a local florist. Briefly works as a carpet cleaner until the boss fires him for not speaking English good enough to talk to customers. At night he trains in parking lots, kicks and punches in the dim glow of street lights. Other homeless people watch him sometimes, probably thinking he's crazy. Maybe he is, maybe you. Have to be crazy to leave a successful life in Brussels to sleep in a car in Los Angeles, chasing a dream that seems more impossible every day. 6 months in Los Angeles. No movie roles, no stunt work, no agent, no connections. Nothing but rejection and exhaustion and the slowly dawning realization that maybe his father was right. Maybe this was delusional. Maybe he should go home. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon in July 1982, everything changes. He's doing construction work, one of his rotating series of survival jobs. He's on a crew demolishing an old building in downtown LA, hard labor. Minimum wage. His body aches from sleeping in his car, from not eating enough, from pushing himself through exhaustion every single day. During lunch break, he's in an alley behind the construction site practicing kicks, just trying to maintain some connection to his training, to remember who he is beneath all the failure and struggle. Black limousine pulls into the alley. Wrong turn probably, the back window rolls down, a man in an expensive suit, sunglasses, smoking a cigar looks out. "What the hell are you doing?" Stops mid-kick. "Training," the man asks. "Training for what?" Says, "I'm martial artist, I want to be in movies." The man laughs, not mocking, curious. "You're a martial artist who works construction?" Says, "I do what I must to survive." The man studies for a long moment. Takes in the sweat, the torn clothes, the visible muscles, the intensity in his eyes that hasn't dimmed despite months of rejection. "Do that kick again." Does a spinning hook kick, fast, precise, the kind of technique that takes years to master. The man in the limo nods slowly. "I'm a producer, I'm working on a low-budget action film. We need someone who can actually fight. You interested?" Gets his first role. Small part, 3 scenes, 2 fight sequences, $5,000. To most actors it's nothing. A forgettable role in a forgettable B-movie that'll go straight to video. To it's everything. It's proof that the dream wasn't delusional, that the 6 months of sleeping in his car weren't wasted. He calls his mother from a payphone. She cries with relief. His father gets on the line, says, "Don't screw this up." It's the closest thing to encouragement we'll get from him. That small role leads to another, then another, starts building a reputation in low-budget action circles. Not as an actor, as a guy who can actually fight, who can do his own stunts, who brings authenticity to fight scenes that usually look fake and choreographed. By 1987 has been in Los Angeles for 6 years. He's not sleeping in his car anymore. He has an apartment, a cheap one in a rough neighborhood, but it's his. He's done a dozen small roles in low-budget action films. He's 27 years old. Physically, he's in the best shape of his life. But his career is stalling. He's the guy who gets hired for fight scenes and background action, not the lead, not the star, not the name on the poster. Then he hears about Bloodsport, a script based on the supposedly true story of Frank Dux, an American martial artist who competed in an underground fighting tournament. Reads the script and knows this is his chance. The role is perfect for him. The movie is built around authentic martial arts, multiple fighting styles, extended combat sequences. Everything has been training for his entire life. He finds out where the film's producer, Mark Dysal, has an office, shows up unannounced. The receptionist tells him he can't see Mr. Dysal without an appointment, doesn't leave, sits in the lobby, just sits. Hours pass. The receptionist tries to get him to leave multiple times. He politely refuses, says he'll wait. 5 p.m., the office is closing, security is called. At that moment, Mark Dysal walks through the lobby, sees the security guards, stops. "What's going on?" Dysal learns this guy has been sitting here all day, refusing to leave, says he wants to audition for Bloodsport. Dysal looks at, takes in his physique, takes in the intensity in his eyes, takes in the absolute refusal to give up. "Can you fight?" Says, "Yes." Dysal says, "Show me." Right there in the lobby does a spinning crescent kick, then a jump spinning heel kick, then drops into a full split, holds it, looks up at Dysal from the floor. "I can do more." Dysal is quiet for a long moment, then says, "Come to the audition tomorrow, 10 a.m. Gets the role. When Bloodsport releases in 1988, it's a modest success theatrically. But when it hits video rental stores, something unexpected happens. It becomes a phenomenon. People rent it over and over. Word spreads. This new action star who can do splits between 2 chairs while fighting, who can knock out opponents with a spinning hook kick, who brings real martial arts authenticity to a genre that usually fakes it. Suddenly, Van Damme isn't just the guy who does fight scenes. He's a star. The offers start coming. Kickboxer, Cyborg, Lionheart, Death Warrant, Universal Soldier, Sudden Death, Timecop, movies that range from low budget to major studio productions. Is working constantly, building a filmography, building a fan base, building wealth and fame and everything he dreamed about as a kid in Brussels. Magazine covers, talk show appearances, action figure deals. The Muscles from Brussels nickname catches on. People start recognizing him on the street. His father calls him one day. They haven't spoken much since left Belgium. Eugene doesn't apologize for doubting him. That's not Eugene's way. But he says, "I saw your movie, you did well." Coming from Eugene van Varenberg, that's the highest compliment possible. By 1994, Van Damme is one of the biggest action stars in the world, up there with Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Willis. He's wealthy beyond anything he imagined, has a house in Hollywood Hills, drives luxury cars, wears designer clothes. From the outside, life looks perfect, the dream fully realized. The kid from Brussels who became an international superstar. Proof that hard work and discipline and refusing to quit can take you anywhere. But inside is falling apart. The discipline that built him is also destroying him. The same obsessive drive that turned him from a skinny kid into a martial arts champion and movie star has created expectations he can't meet anymore. His body, pushed to extremes for decades, is breaking down. Can't remember exactly when it started. Was it after Universal Soldier, when he was doing press tour in 20 countries and sleeping 3 hours a night? Was it during Street Fighter, when he was filming in Thailand and the heat and the pressure became suffocating? He can't pinpoint the moment, but somewhere along the way, the disciplined martial artist who never missed a training session started missing them. The man who controlled every aspect of his body and mind started losing control. It begins innocently. A drink at a premiere to calm his nerves, a painkiller after a particularly brutal stunt, cocaine at a party because everyone else is doing it and refusing would make him seem uptight. but S personality doesn't do moderation. The same obsessive quality that made him successful makes him vulnerable to excess. If training 4 hours a day is good, then 8 hours is better. If one drink helps, 3 drinks help more. If pain pills make the physical aches disappear, taking more makes everything disappear. The movies keep coming. Each one requires to be in peak physical condition, to do splits, to execute complex fight choreography, to look like the invincible action hero audiences expect. But is 36 years old. His knees ache from decades of high kicks, his back hurts from countless stunt falls. His shoulders are starting to show signs of chronic damage. The body he pushed to superhuman limits for 26 years is sending clear signals: slow down, rest, recover. He doesn't slow down, he can't. Slowing down means admitting weakness. Means admitting that maybe he's not the unstoppable martial arts machine anymore. So he pushes harder, takes more pills to manage the pain. Drinks more to sleep. Uses cocaine to maintain energy levels during 16-hour shooting days. The cycle accelerates. The substances aren't enhancing his performance anymore. They're just keeping him functional enough to survive. His marriage falls apart. Custody battles become ugly. Tabloids run stories about his behavior, his partying, his increasingly erratic appearances in public. His agent starts getting calls from producers who are worried. Is reliable? Is he insurable? Can we count on him to show up and deliver? Assures everyone he's fine, just stressed, just going through a divorce, nothing to worry about, everything under control, but everything is not under control. In 1997 is cast in Knockoff, filming in Hong Kong. It's supposed to be a comeback role, but arrives not in peak condition. He's lost weight, not the good kind. His face looks gaunt. His eyes are hollow. The first week of filming is chaos. Misses his call time on day 2. Shows up 3 hours late, clearly not sober. Day 4 he forgets his lines, simple lines. He stammers through takes, sweats profusely, can't focus. The producers call an emergency meeting, something is seriously wrong, needs help, but he refuses to admit there's a problem, insists he's just tired, jet-lagged. Give him a few days, he'll be fine, he's always been fine, he's Van Damme, he doesn't break except he's breaking. One night after a particularly disastrous day of filming, is alone in his hotel room. The nice suite overlooking Victoria Harbor. Room service menu on the table. Mini bar fully stocked. Phone that rings constantly with calls from his agent, his lawyer, people who all want something from him. Sits on the edge of the bed and looks at himself in the mirror across the room. The man looking back is a stranger, not the confident action hero from movie posters. Not the disciplined martial artist from Brussels. This man looks defeated, exhausted, hollowed out, realizes in that moment that he's lost, not lost his career or his fame or his money, he's lost himself. The core of who he was, who he built himself to become, has been destroyed by the very success he fought so hard to achieve. He takes out his phone, stares at it, thinking about calling a dealer, getting something to make this feeling go away. His finger hovers over the contact. One call. That's all it takes, problem temporarily solved, but then something stops him, something that sounds like Master Goetz's voice from 26 years ago. The strongest people aren't the ones who never fall, they're the ones who fall and get back up. Has fallen harder than any stunt, deeper than any physical injury. The question is, can he get back up? He sets the phone down, doesn't call the dealer. Sits in the silence of his hotel room and lets himself feel everything he's been avoiding for months. The pain, the fear, the shame, the overwhelming exhaustion of pretending to be someone he's not anymore. For the first time in his adult life, Van Damme doesn't know what to do next. He hasn't slept. He's been sitting on the edge of his bed for 7 hours when there's a knock on his door at 6 a.m. He opens it. It's Frank, one of the producers. Frank has been in the film business for 30 years. He's seen everything, but standing at S' door, he looks genuinely worried. Can I come in? Steps aside. Frank enters, looks around the room, takes in the untouched room service. S' appearance, still wearing yesterday's clothes, unshaven, eyes red. Frank sits in the chair by the window. Jean, we need to talk, and I need you to be honest with me, no bullshit, just truth. Wants to deflect, to say everything's fine, but he's so tired of lying. Don't know what's happening to me. It's the first true thing he's said in months. Frank nods. I know you're using, everyone knows. The question isn't whether you have a problem, the question is whether you want help. Is quiet for a long time. I wanted to be the best, he says. When I was a kid, I was nothing, weak, invisible. I trained every day to become someone different, someone strong, and I did it. But now I don't know who I am. The person I built myself to be requires perfection. Perfect body, perfect discipline, perfect control, and I can't maintain it anymore. Frank leans forward. Here's what I know about you. I've worked with dozens of action stars. You're different. You're a real martial artist who learned to act. That discipline is real. Everyone has seen it, but discipline without self-compassion becomes self-destruction. You've been so hard on yourself for so long that when you couldn't meet your own impossible standards, instead of adjusting the standards, you punished yourself. And that punishment became addiction. Has never heard anyone describe his situation this way. What do I do? He asks, and the vulnerability in his voice is heartbreaking. Frank says, you stop filming today, right now. We shut down production. You go to rehab, a real program that deals with addiction seriously. Says, I'll lose the movie. Frank replies, maybe, or maybe the production will wait. Either way, you don't have a choice. You keep going like this, you're not going to lose a movie. You're going to lose your life. Knows Frank is right. Okay, he says quietly. Okay, I'll go. The rehab facility is in Malibu, expensive, private, the kind of place where celebrities go to quietly deal with problems away from cameras. Checks in on a Tuesday afternoon, brings one suitcase, no phone. No outside contact except scheduled calls with his lawyer and his children. The rules are strict, no exceptions. The first week is brutal. Withdrawal from cocaine and prescription painkillers is nothing like physical pain from training. His body revolts, nausea, sweating, shaking, insomnia, waves of anxiety that make him feel like he's drowning. The second week, the physical symptoms ease, but the psychological work begins. Group therapy, individual counseling. Hours of confronting the reasons behind his addiction. His therapist, Dr. Sarah, pushes him. What do you use? She asks during one session, says to manage pain. She asks physical pain. He says yes. She asks what else is quiet. Finally he says to feel like myself. Dr. Sarah asks who is yourself? Says the person people expect me to be. Van Damme, the muscles from Brussels, the action hero, the martial artist who never gets tired, never hurts, never fails. She asks, and when you don't use. Admits I'm just, and I don't know who that is anymore. Dr. Sarah leans forward. That's the core of it. You've spent your entire life building a persona, becoming this perfect martial artist, this action hero. But the human being got left behind. The scared kid from Brussels who felt invisible, he's still inside you. You never addressed his pain. You just covered him with muscles and discipline and success. And now that the muscles hurt and the discipline is failing and the success feels empty, he's still there. Still scared, still feeling like he's not enough. Feels something crack open inside him. Something he's been protecting, hiding, ignoring for 28 years. Dr. Sarah continues, recovery isn't about becoming disciplined again. You're already too disciplined. That's part of your problem. Recovery is about learning to be human, imperfect, vulnerable, learning that you have value beyond what you can do, beyond how you look, beyond your achievements. In group therapy, sits with other people struggling with addiction. A music producer, a corporate lawyer, a former NFL player, a school teacher, people from completely different backgrounds united by the same core problem. They use substances to escape pain they didn't know how to process. Listens to their stories, hears his own story reflected back in different words, different contexts, same underlying truth. The NFL player says, my whole identity was football. And my body couldn't play anymore. I didn't know who I was, so I drank to forget that I didn't know. Understands this completely. The music producer says, I was always chasing the next hit, the next success, the next thing that would prove I was good enough, but nothing was ever enough, so I used cocaine to feel like I was enough, at least for a few hours. Understands this too. For the first time in his life, realizes he's not alone. The specific circumstances are different, but the core struggle is universal. The fear of not being enough, the pressure to maintain an impossible image, the exhaustion of performing instead of being, the loneliness of success that doesn't fulfill. Starts to understand that addiction isn't a personal moral failure. It's a response to pain that he didn't have better tools to manage. 3 weeks into rehab, has a breakthrough during an individual therapy session. Dr. Sarah asks him to close his eyes and visualize himself as a 10-year-old kid standing outside that dojo in Brussels watching the martial artist through the window. What does that kid want? She asks. Thinks he wants to be strong. Dr. Sarah says no, that's what he thinks he wants. What does he actually want? What's beneath the desire for strength? Sits with the question, really sits with it. And then he understands. He wants to matter, he wants to be seen, he wants to know that his existence makes a difference, that he's not invisible, that people care whether he's here or not. Dr. Sarah nods. And did becoming strong give him that? Opens his eyes. For a while, but then the strength became the only thing people saw. They didn't see me. They saw the muscles, the kicks, the action hero. I became invisible again, just in a different way. Dr. Sarah says, so what would you tell that 10-year-old kid now knowing what you know? Thinks when he speaks, his voice cracks. I would tell him that he already matters, that he doesn't have to earn the right to exist by becoming someone extraordinary, that being ordinary is okay, that being weak is okay, that being scared is okay, that he's enough exactly as he is. Tears run down his face. He's crying for the first time in years, not from physical pain, from emotional release. From finally giving himself permission to be human. 6 weeks into rehab, completes the program. On his last day, Dr. Sarah sits with him in her office. You know this isn't over, right? Rehab is the beginning, not the end. You're going back to a world that has all the same triggers, all the same pressures. You'll need ongoing support, therapy, meetings, a strong recovery community. You can't do this alone. Nods. I understand. Returns to Hong Kong. The production has waited. Frank kept his word. When walks onto set, there's a moment of tension. Everyone remembers what happened before, but addresses the crew directly. Thanks them for waiting, apologizes for his previous behavior, explains that he went to rehab, that he's in recovery, that he's committed to doing this right. The director sees something different in SI, something calmer, more grounded. They finish the movie, works reasonable hours, takes rest when he needs it, doesn't push through pain with substances. The performance isn't his best work technically, but there's something real in it, something vulnerable, something human that wasn't there in his previous films. When the movie wraps, doesn't immediately jump to the next project. For the first time in 15 years, he takes time off, spends it with his children, reconnects with his mother, attends recovery meetings, works with a therapist, slowly rebuilds his life on a foundation of honesty instead of perfection. Years later, does an interview where he talks openly about his addiction, his struggles, his recovery. It's filmed simply, just sitting in a chair talking directly to camera. No action sequences, no martial arts demonstrations, just a man telling the truth about his life. In 90 seconds of that interview says something that resonates with millions of people around the world. I spent my whole life trying to be strong, and I became strong, but I confused strength with perfection. Real strength isn't never falling, it's getting back up, it's admitting you need help, it's being human. That 90 seconds changes lives. People struggling with addiction see themselves in S story. Parents show it to their kids to teach them about the difference between strength and vulnerability. Athletes dealing with career-ending injuries find hope in S honesty. The interview gets millions of views. Not because of martial arts or action sequences, but because Van Damme finally stopped performing and started being real. Continues acting but differently. He chooses roles that interest him rather than roles that maintain his image. He does smaller films, independent projects, work that challenges him as an actor rather than just as a physical performer. His body changes. He's still fit, still capable, but he's no longer chasing the impossible standard of his 20s and 30s. He's a man in his 40s, then 50s, then 60s, aging naturally, gracefully, honestly. When young martial artists ask him for advice, tells them about discipline and training and dedication. But he also tells them about self-compassion, about knowing when to push and when to rest, about building an identity beyond what your body can do, about the importance of being human, not superhuman. He tells them that the greatest fight isn't in a tournament or on a movie screen. It's the fight to know yourself, to accept yourself, to be yourself. Van Damme's legacy isn't just the splits, the kicks, the action movies. It's the example of someone who fell, admitted it, got help, and rebuilt his life. It's the proof that discipline without self-compassion leads to destruction, but discipline combined with humanity leads to sustainable success. It's the reminder that strength includes vulnerability, that courage includes asking for help, that heroism includes admitting you don't have all the answers. That Bangkok hotel room at 3 a.m. could have been the end of Van Damme's story. Instead, it became the beginning of his most important transformation. Not from weak to strong, not from unknown to famous, but from performing to being, from superhuman to human, from hiding to honesty. And that transformation, captured in 90 seconds of raw truth in an interview years later, has inspired more people than any spinning kick or action sequence ever could. Because at the end of the day, we don't need more superheroes. We need more humans willing to admit they're struggling, more success stories that include the failures, more strong people who aren't afraid to show their weakness. Van Damme became all of that, not despite his addiction and recovery, but because of it. The skinny kid from Brussels who wanted to be the strongest martial artist in the world ultimately discovered that real strength isn't in your muscles, it's in your willingness to be vulnerable. To tell the truth, to ask for help, to get back up. And that's a legacy worth more than any box office success or martial arts championship. That's a life that matters, that's strength.